Welcome to 10 Frames Per Second, podcast about photojournalism by photojournalists, but for everyone. With your hosts Joe Giordano and Molly Roberts. New episodes drop every Tuesday on 10fps.net or anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also catch back episodes on WLOI.org, as all episodes are recorded and produced at WLOI Loyola Radio in Maryland.
Welcome back to 10 Frames Per Second. We have a fantastic guest today with a iconic subject matter, fantastic photographs to talk about. For over 50 years, Lynn Goldsmith's photography has appeared in some of the best-known magazines like Life, Newsweek, Time, Vanity Fair, Rolling Stone, Sports Illustrated, National Geographic Traveler, People, Elle, Interview, and The New Yorker. Probably a lot more. Her subjects have varied from entertainment personalities to sports stars, from film directors to authors, from the extraordinary to the ordinary. And her images are in numerous museum collections: the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery, the Museum of Modern Art, the Chicago Museum of Contemporary Photography, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Museum Folkwang, the Polaroid Collection, the Kodak Collection, and the personal art collections of many celebrities, including Michael J. Fox, Miley Cyrus, Elton John, Elliot Page, to name a few. She is the author of 15 books, and we're going to talk about this incredible career and Patti Smith, your new book. So Molly and I would like to welcome you to the podcast.
Thanks. Well, I'm really happy to be able to be here with you all. You know, many people my age aren't here anymore. So I'm grateful. Thanks for the invitation. Yeah.
Welcome, Lynn. I'm so glad you're here too. I know this is sort of a well-worn question, but our listeners always like to hear the answer to this. How did you begin in this wonderful world of photography?
Well, you're right. It is a question that I've been asked many times, and oftentimes, you know, by people who are in college making the decision about their future.
Right.
The road to my using photography as a means to have a life is a very kind of convoluted one. I never expected that this would be, you know, the main way that I both have supported myself and grown as a human being. And I think that's very important to know as a young person, that one thing leads you to another, and the most important part of it all is to follow your bliss. I've always made pictures because my father was a serious amateur photographer, and so I had a little camera and would go with him and sit in the dark room with him, but it wasn't an art form or a tool that I perceived this would be how people would think of me as an artist or as a human being. The full story of how convoluted it is in a book that is not only a photographic book, but a book of stories, and is called Rock and Roll Stories. So that book isn't in stores now, but it is available because I see people selling them on eBay or, you know, places. So Amazon does have it. In fact, I have to buy them for people when I want them, because I get tired of answering that question. So I say, here, read the book. Yeah.
So you don't have a storehouse of them in your place.
They're all gone.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, that's good news. Well, so what did you think? You know, did you have a different idea of who you would be, what you would work as? What was the field of interest to you before photography?
Oh, well, there were always a number of things that interest me. I thought I would either be a singer-songwriter, an actress, a ballerina. You know, at one point, I mean, earlier than that, I probably thought I'd be a fireman. You know, when I went to college, I was in a band at University of Michigan and was pursuing that, but something which, if you read the book, changed the course of things. And my other interests had to do with making movies and directing either film or actually films more so than TV.
Did you do any of the filmmaking? Because that would have been the time is like the Jarmushes, right? And the kind of new wave film scene. Did you dabble in shooting?
I'm actually older than Jim Jarmusch and Amos Poe, and these people are my friends. But yes, I made films. I made films in 1969 for Elektra Records, which can now be considered the first music videos on Judy Collins, The Doors, Delaney and Bonnie, a range of people. And that was part of what led me to join up with Joshua White, who had done the Joshua Light Show. And we formed a company called Joshua Television, which did video magnification. And I was the director. And then ABC came along and wanted to hire Joshua Television to do the first show on network television, rock and roll show called ABC in Concert. So yes, I was a director, but I didn't think that I would be directing. I was very bored with just, directing concerts or music videos. I wanted to have my films that were written by me or me and a friend, produced.
Mm.
So
well, you're definitely a Renaissance woman, Lynn.
Yeah, are those available anywhere? Because I teach at a art school in the film department, and if I could screen those for students, I think it'd be kind of.
I don't have copies. They were, first of all, they were owned by Elektra Records by Jack Holzman, but there was a cabinet at Elektra Records where we used to keep the masters, and I don't know where they are.
Right.
Yeah,
What
I wish
happened
I
to
had
that?
them. Yeah.
What happened to that cabinet? Yeah, that's a valuable cabinet.
Well,
Well,
we heard that there was a guy that worked there in the kind of shipping, and he took care of, what kind of went in and out of Elektra Records. We sort of heard that he went off with them. So who
oh.
knows? Maybe one day they'll resurface or they won't. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting how some archival film stuff has resurfaced that has been so amazing. Like this concerts in the park that turned into summer.
Yeah.
What was that film called? It was just so good. But you seem to understand the value of archives early. Like creating the rock and roll photo gallery was a pretty genius idea. Has that market continued to work? I know the gallery's still open, right? And
Yeah, I really never thought, I was doing anything that would be part of history, so to speak. I just know that the people who are successful in life are not just because I've known many incredibly brilliant as well as creative individuals who ended up broke because they're not organized and because they only operate, let's say, on one side of their brain. And they don't make the effort. It's fine if you are, it's a natural thing if you operate, if you're just a left side person or a right side brain person. But if you are, then I think you need to find a partner who has the other half. And the most successful people, whether it's in fashion or any other form that I know of, have that person if they themselves are not both what I call left brain and right brain. So I have always been someone who felt far more comfortable with things organized and with the ability to figure out how the things that I make can be sold. A lot of people, most many artists, they just make it. They
Right.
don't really want to deal with or care about or feel responsible to the selling of it. And that's fine if you don't want to make a living from it. But if you do, then, and you don't like that work, then find someone who does and make them your partner.
No, good advice. Just
The gallery you just had the punk show. Was it last year or 2 years ago? Or is it the same gallery? Is it in New York?
No,
No.
you're talking, my work is with numerous galleries, and I also own a gallery.
Okay.
The gallery that you're speaking of is called Morrison Hotel Gallery. My gallery is rockandrollphotogallery.com. However, we are going to change that name this year because there is another site called Rock and Roll Gallery, which does not represent the level of work or represent my aesthetic, and people get confused. So I'm just going to make it, and there's another reason as well. I have focused for the past, I don't know, maybe 5 years or so on my painting, which I've always done, but now I'm doing more of it. And so the Rock and Roll Gallery will become the Lynn Goldsmith Gallery.com. But we're working on that, and that site probably, won't take over the Rock and Roll Photo Gallery site. This all sounds very confusing until maybe 6 months or up to a year, because we don't want to bring it out until it's really up to date, and technology is changing so fast that we want it to be an interesting place to go to, not just a place to look at photography or art, but a place to hopefully inspire people.
And so your gallery is totally virtual. You don't have a storefront.
Oh, no, we have a brick and mortar gallery. I had a brick and mortar gallery in Aspen for like 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And when we moved to Nashville, it became a private gallery open by appointment.
Nice.
Because we're interested only in here, because here it's part of my home, but we've built a gallery.
Oh, nice. That sounds wonderful.
It is wonderful, but I'm really not, I don't have the time to just talk to people who are visiting because, music means so much to them, or maybe they have nothing to do in Nashville. So they want to, and I just don't have the time. No, and we tell people, I don't mean to be rude, but we tell people, if you're just coming to look, we're not look online.
Right.
Yeah. Because it's me, and I really don't want to. I'm very happy to talk with people who are serious about collecting, whether it's photography or paintings.
Oh,
So
nice.
we advise on that.
So I will not ring your doorbell when I'm in Nashville.
No,
I'll just text you online. I'll
give you a call first.
Yes.
So the new book, Patti Smith, Before Easter, After. Well, tell us about that title in the first place.
I've worked with a designer on most of my books. Her name is Elizabeth Van Italy. And I do feel that she adds a great deal. And before we finalize a book title, I always run things by her. And I wanted the title to reflect the period of time that the pictures covered, without having like Patti Smith, 1975 to 1980, and so the images are from before Easter and pretty much right at, a little bit of time after the album Easter was released. Yeah, therefore, before, Easter, after. Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Easter
revolves
being
around
Easter,
it revolves around the Patti Smith album Easter,
right?
which will have its 50th anniversary the year after this. Yeah, she has horses with her 50th this coming year. And then the next year is Easter.
One of my great memories is when she came to the Kennedy Center Millennial Stage for free, and I took my kids down there, and it was just jammed. I mean, I do love Patti Smith, and I mean, she is such an eclectic, amazing artist, and she does this great blog now, visual or vlog or whatever it is. But what a great person to collaborate with, Lynn.
Well, it's not a blog, it's called Substack.
Yes.
You can, it costs money and you pay a fee. However, you pretty much sit in Patty's bedroom with her,
Right. And
every
it's
night, or when she's able to do it, because she does tour and she will go on her Substack from where she is in some little town in Italy or whatever.
right.
And it's, I know because I've been friends with her for so long. I feel like she's the exact same way with me sitting in her bedroom with her as she is with everybody that's on her Substack.
So it's really an intimate view of all of the things that she's interested in. And sometimes she's reading other people's poetry, sometimes she's reading her own, sometimes
And it's
she's
not just
just,
poetry.
yeah.
She
Hmm.
also, there are, a lot of book recommendations and, the things that she finds inspiring to her. It could be whether it's a book like Death in Venice that she even recently talked about on her Substack in terms of how she had a really hard time getting through it. You feel better if Patti Smith can't get through it. She's looking up every word.
Yeah.
You're not so dumb, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
To having a little doll that sits on her desktop get up and go, and this is my friend so and so, so that's what I mean by she shows all the parts of herself that, people like myself who have known her for, 50 years are privy to. But now the
Yeah.
whole world just the whole world is willing to pay sees her as she is. She's your
Right.
friend in your room with her. Yeah.
How much
Yes.
collaboration did she have in the book as far as layout and pairing up the photos with her poem? The book is gorgeous, by the way. I'm just going to tell our
Yeah.
listeners that you have this is one book that I will probably the first time I think on the show you have to get. It's a gorgeous book if you're a Patti Smith fan, if you're a fan of her poetry, punk, the scene. Definitely. Going through it, thank you for the peek at it. I was curious to know how much say she had, or was it a collaboration between the two of you guys as far as layout and pictures and that stuff?
Well, it's totally a collaboration. That was really the joy in doing it. I mean, I have done books where it's, in fact, last year I had a book come out on Taschen, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. And as I worked on the spreads, I would send them to Bruce to make sure he liked everything and get them back and always keep in mind what he and what I thought his family and his fans would want. But I didn't work with him the same way that I did with Patty, which was as we went over the pictures and the spreads as the book was being done. She would say, I think these lyrics would go really well here. I want this poem over here. And there were times when I had things in my files, like a poem that Sam Shepard had written to one of the photographs of Patty because he felt it was so Patty. And until I was going through all my files, I had even forgotten that I had it, and Sam has since passed away.
Right.
That
Wow.
image is
What an
the
artifact.
cover of that image is the cover of the book, and and the poem, the book, that photograph reappears in the front of the book with the poem by Sam.
Mhm.
So, there were many things that were really fun to experience with Patty, the rediscovery of things. Particularly, there's an image about probably in the center of the book, maybe a little bit after, which comes from just one of our playful photo shoots where I had this headdress that was really not Patty Smith in terms of how one thinks of her. But I said, who knows, maybe one day we'll use it. And we used it in the book, 40 something years later.
It sort of makes her look like a nymph, the flower headpiece.
Oh, no, the flower one were attempts at Easter, which is explained in the book. No, it's the one with it's a double page spread with a feather headdress with these silver things, tassels hanging by her ears, and she's got this look. The point is that, you put her in something and she can bring up a character in her own mind that translates it to an image quite powerfully, but it doesn't mean necessarily that it's right to put out in terms of connecting it to her or to an album.
One image that I really love in the book, and it's kind of a nice break too, is that full page spread of just a diary or an open book with handwritten. Is that the Sam Shepard image that you're talking about?
The image on the cover is a headshot where she's looking directly at you.
I just think this artifact is so beautiful, and you've photographed it so beautifully, and it's done in black and white, which is really different from most of the other images in the book. So it really stands out.
Well, those are basically what you're talking about are digital wet plates. And those are almost like chapter headings. In fact, they are chapter headings, which announce various things. And those were shot, I'd go over to Patty's, and she saves everything. So she would pull out, we'd collect things, and then I'd photograph them. And we'd decide later on if they were going to go in the book or not. And as we went along, there were things that I said, well, what about your boots, for example? Because she used to wear these kind of army boots. I had them as well, but hers, because she wore them all the time, she kept wearing them after they ripped in front, and she put tape over them. And she told me that her mother had donated them to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
I said, well, we got to get them back.
Right.
So
need a photograph. Yeah.
Patty got them to let us have them back they came with someone from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to New York who had to wait there while I shot them to take back these precious boots. So yeah, those are in there, and they're all part of various chapters. Yeah.
Well, we were talking about collaboration, but collaboration starts right when you're making the images, right? I mean, I know some portrait photographers have a concept that they're trying to apply, but looking at your work, I don't feel like that's the way that you work. And I also know that one of the things that you're really proud of is your Lucy Award for portraiture that you got in 2020. So can you give us a little window into like what it was like doing those photographs? Did they happen over the course of a year, a month? Is there an ongoing conversation while you're doing it? You're just trying a lot of things. Can you just tell us, do you have music playing? What's going on when you're making those images?
Every situation is different because every human being is different.
Mhm.
So working with Patty from the very beginning, and the reason she was more or less my muse at the time was because I didn't have to work to get her to be really comfortable in front of the camera.
Mhm.
She had, lived with a photographer,
Right,
and Robert.
right.
And before that, or during that even, Robert and her were friends from school with Judy Lynn, who is a photographer. And Patty understood what it was to more or less be a model,
Mhm.
um, and partake in that. Almost like working with someone who's a model, uh,
Mhm.
because they know how to elicit things, and then you can just move forward and collaborate. But when you're doing, whether it's celebrity portraiture or just images with people, you have to understand that most people are not comfortable in front of a camera. They're always afraid that it will capture the things that they don't really want people to see.
Mhm.
And when you freeze a moment, that's possible, you know?
Mhm.
So you have to create an environment where people feel, where people definitely feel safe enough that they can let go to stop thinking about who they are, and
How they look, yeah.
to just play and be in the moment. They do care about how they look, and you share that, whether in the old days it was with Polaroids,
Mhm.
and that's true whether you're photographing, a Maasai tribe, or whether you're photographing Frank Zappa.
Mhm.
People are more comfortable when they can see or understand what you're quote unquote capturing. Um,
Right.
Mm.
and to create an environment that's fun, that's non-threatening, that is something that they can have the opportunity to collaborate in. So having props in your studio that they can use if they want to. There's a range of things, but everybody is different, and there are no hard lines. You mentioned, Molly, something about, my pictures look more like a collaboration than thought out, but it's not like that. My pictures
Mhm.
are thought out, and I put
Mhm.
a lot of research
Mhm.
and thinking into what I'm going to do, and that provides a structure by which it's open enough that
Mhm.
collaboration can happen.
Mhm.
And that's it's really, I think, of great significance to not keep drawing these lines between things, which limit not only yourself but other people.
Mhm.
My entire career, whether it has been as Will Powers, the recording artist, where I go by another name,
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely
Right.
want to talk about that.
or as a
But
filmmaker, or
mhm.
as a producer, or
Mhm.
as a gallery owner, or as whatever, as a business, but whatever it is I am,
Mhm.
it's just, I think of myself as Lynn. I don't limit myself. And I
Mhm.
know that I want my life to be one where I'm I'm happy more of the time. You're not going to be happy all of the time. That's not what life is. Provides you with moments of opportunity to
Mhm.
discover, and that often comes, when you're not happy, when
Mhm.
you have an issue which needs addressing.
Mhm.
So, these ways that I express myself, and I change all the time, is because if I'm really not happy doing something, I make a shift. When I was directing, I met Grand Funk Railroad, and I became a co-manager of a rock and roll band and worked in that area, as well as doing all the, whether it was the film We're an American Band or all their photography. I did everything else with Andy that has to do with management. So, you just cannot get attached or draw a box around who you are if I think you want to really live a life of your greatest potential. And you
Wow.
can't do that to other people.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that is going to be very useful for people to listen to and think about and apply to their own lives and careers. Often, with photography, sometimes you feel like, oh, this person, yeah, they were really great at this point in their life, but then they just sort of stayed there. And that was a mistake. Like they start emulating their own work instead of breaking out of that box. But I guess I think that like with this Patti Smith book, and I don't know all your work authoritatively, but your relationship with her, your long friendship with her, her personality, it just created a space where the images are very vulnerable, very emotional, and beautiful. And you can't always replicate that if you don't have, the kind of relationship that you did have with her. So that's a real gem.
How hard was it editing it down?
But
No.
I think if you look at my book, New Kids, which came out in 1990, and I still get requests for it because those people who love them so much, that book is really meaningful for them. So any of my books that are on single subject matter, like New Kids, like Patty, like Kiss, like Bruce, like The Police, those books are meant to have the same effect that you are talking about with the Patty book.
Having the emotional weight. Yeah. And so what kind of time does that take to have that kind of emotional weight? Does it vary, or is it over the course of a year that you would photograph someone like that? Or is it over a course of 10 years? Does the time commitment matter, or is it just the intensity?
No, I think when I did the New Kids book, the intention was to do a book from the beginning of photographing them. And I gave myself 6 months, and I wanted the book out a year later after that, which is actually a short time span.
Yeah, that's quick.
Yeah, so the whole intention was the book, and the intention was for it to be something that all these adolescent girls who love them so much would feel that they had the sacred object that their love deserved. I did that because when I was their age, my love for Elvis Presley and others, all we had were books that were regurgitated pictures from magazines, repeats on bad paper. There were no books for fans that were really well produced like art books are. That was the intention of working with Rizzoli to do the New Kids book.
Yeah.
With other books, it's looking back and putting together the story, whether it's Kiss or The Police. And yes, I photographed them over a period of years. And so I know there's a period of time in their musical life, which is generally a pivotal time. For Bruce, it was what I thought was Darkness on the Edge of Town was a pivotal time. And that's what that book is centered on. The same thing for Kiss's period of time, and the same thing for the Police. So the question is, when I put those books together, which are years after I've made the pictures, the only one that I've ever done that was done, like I'm doing a book and it's going to be right now, was New Kids.
New
The
Kids,
others are like, these artists mean so much to certain large numbers of people. And I want to make something of quality that they can hold on to the same way we used to hold an album cover and listen to the music.
Right.
We don't really have that vinyl opportunity like we did in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And in addition to that, I just think books are sacred objects, things that you keep around, because for some reason, it's almost like your body connects to them.
Yeah, Joe and I are both big book collectors and love them. But also I start to wonder, as I downsize, where am I going to put all these books?
Yeah,
But
we
I love
all
having
wonder
them, and
that.
I love having them in my life. Well, talking about the book again, the decision to do the deluxe edition, it's sort of a trend nowadays to do these deluxe editions. And it certainly is really cool to have one that's signed by both you and Patty. And did you know right away that you were also going to do a deluxe edition? Is that something that Rizzoli would encourage you to do, or?
No, I didn't do a deluxe. What happened is the deluxe book came first. Just like with Bruce, those are Taschen books, not Rizzoli.
Okay.
And that the Taschen book was released 5 years ago. Patty and I made some changes. We always knew there's the deluxe edition, and then you can't, in fairness to Taschen, who, has to sell the deluxe edition, you can't make what they call a trade edition, which is a lower priced book, a more affordable book.
Right.
Because deluxe books generally start at like $750 and more, depending on various factors, and if there's a print included. So that is really Taschen's business model, that books are pieces of art to be collected.
Right, collector's items,
But
yeah.
particularly with Patty, unlike, let's say, with Bruce, her fan base, it's very difficult for them to be able to afford that for a book. And
Right.
so we were always looking forward to both Patty and I, because many people had requested, when are you going to make a book like that that's
More
affordable
affordable,
for
yeah.
us? So, not that $70, I forget how much that book is, 70, 60, 75, $65, I think.
Sort of, yeah.
It's still, I mean, that's a lot of money for some people. And, when you look at, Patty is now 78 years old, and she's one of the few artists of that age, because many of them are still out on the road, including Ringo Starr. So, or Paul McCartney, or, they're in their 80s. And Patty's certainly not on that level. But the fact that when you go to her concerts, most of the people there are young people. You go to a Dylan concert, you go to, anyone who's in that age group, Neil Young, and you will see mostly white hairs.
Yeah, it's true. I have been noticing that.
Yeah, so so it's not as affordable for young people. And we really wanted to make a book that would, not only be affordable, but that would have in it, the context of who Patty is. And this idea, it gets very locked in, my friends, like Jim Osterberg, also known as Iggy Pop,
Mhm.
or Patty, David Johansen, who get referred to as punk. They don't like it,
Mm.
they're artists. And,
Right.
besides that being limiting, it's, it especially for Patty, Patty's a poet, Patty's a writer.
Right. An award-winning writer, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how you want to be thought of as an effective, as an artist who opens up the minds of other people.
Continues to evolve. Yeah. Doesn't get stuck in one genre or one time period. I get it. That's important as an artist to continue to have a broad sweep of life, I think. Well, what are you listening to these days? Do you have like what kind of music are you listening to?
Well, I tend to listen to, as I think anyone my age does who's intimidated by all of the new names. Like there's
Mhm.
so many names you have to learn. I barely remember my husband's name, and today's our anniversary.
Oh,
So,
happy
um,
anniversary.
thank you. Um, there are artists that I hear only because, let's say, they popped up on my Instagram or whatever. And I even try to be helpful by making pictures of them. My Instagram is at Lynn Goldsmith. And like I heard, a couple of years ago, I had heard Grace Bowers, who is this, at the time, she just turned 17. Now she's well into her 18th year. And, she's an amazing guitarist who's very much influenced by the kind of music that I love so much, funk.
Mm.
That of George Clinton and other artists. She and I just communicated yesterday because she posted, wait, I'm going to look at, she posted this thing about, an artist, because she's learning to really sing now. And the artist that she was like trying to sing to was Corey Henry, who has won a Grammy and blah blah blah. And it was like
Mhm.
8 years ago I found Corey Henry
Oh,
and
cool.
started
Yeah.
photographing him. Or there's a picture that I posted the other day of Amanda Shires,
Oh,
who's
yeah.
really
She's
good.
amazing. Yeah.
She's a really good singer-songwriter. So when I see or hear something that I think feels very authentic to that person, but it's not generally, it's not like when I walk over to my sound system, I want to hear Aretha Franklin, Paul Simon. There's a range of artists
Mhm.
that connect to my history. And I
Mhm.
think that's why we like to listen to them so much.
I collect kind of that era of photo books, and I was wondering just what it was like for you as a woman to navigate these, like a lot of times these ultra masculine, kind of like these, um, just these spaces, right? Where a rock photographer was some wiry haired guy that did coke, and like carried a gun around.
Are you talking about Neil Preston?
No, I was actually talking about
No,
Jim,
Neil didn't carry a gun. That was Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim Marshall.
Jim Marshall,
Yeah.
yeah, like but I mean, what was it like back then, like during that, and I mean, bands like Kiss, right? Gene Simmons is a lot to know about Gene.
Gene Simmons is a really nice Jewish guy who's very respectful,
That's
who
cool.
collaborates, who's great to work with, who is a jokester, a real comedian.
Mm.
So
He has, I mean, but he has like a lot of say in Kiss products, right? Like I know he's very protective of the copyright of Kiss. So I was wondering when we were talking about collaboration much earlier, what it was like when the band saw these books, where they and how they felt, and also again like how you kind of navigated those spaces, where you like was it like being shoved around? I just think a lot of our younger listeners, need to understand like it was very difficult for women photographers back then. I mean, I'm not saying it was, but I'm from what I've read, talking to Roberta Bailey and other photographers you've interviewed. So maybe if you could kind of expand on that a little bit.
Sure. Um, First of all, I think that we all come into the world with pluses and minuses. And when I was co-managing Grand Funk with Andy Cavalieri, the point was that I knew that it would be difficult, or when I worked with Josh, it would be difficult for me as a woman to get them to get the men at the company to accept my ideas. And so I found partners who were not threatened, like Andy, like Josh. There are men you can work with who can take the place of doing certain things, and you can just move forward and do your work. So in life, there are those of us who are to others more physically attractive than somebody else. There are those of us who are fat. There are those of us who are short. There are those of us who are black. There are those of us, there's a range of things that are both pluses and minuses. I was a white, attractive young girl, and that there are pluses there that people want to have you around because you're attractive. There are people that want to have you around because you're funny. And at the same time that you have pluses, you're going to have minuses. So being female in certain situations is a minus. So you figure your way around it. The point is not to be involved in the drama of it. You figure out how to accomplish what it is you need to accomplish. And as far as, you're referring to the KISS book, or how did I navigate that? I did it with Gene and Paul. And Gene and Paul have always treated me, like I'm a cousin or something. And it's because of what I don't put out that vibe that I'm available. I don't use that as a means of what the relationship is about. I'm there to serve a purpose of making them look the best that they can look and making pictures that people want to see, which advance their careers. And I'm very clear on either being a friend or whatever it is I'm going to be to somebody. And I think that is an asset. So I don't think about being female. I don't think about being one thing or another. I know how I visually appear to people. And oftentimes I will change that. I wear different wigs. I can look much younger. You can see that on my Instagram. I change up who I am. In Will Powers, I'm also the bag lady, Wilma Fox, where I look like a homeless person on the street. So to accept that whoever we are visually has an effect on how a person then identifies us and wants to put us in a certain kind of box. If you know that, that's your advantage to being able to accomplish whatever it is you're looking to accomplish. And that's all I really care about. How can I manifest my ideas, and how can I live a life that feels purposeful to me?
Good advice. I was going to, as sort of final question, say, do you have any advice for young photographers who might like to follow in your footsteps? But part of what your answer there was certainly, fitting for that. But it is a totally different time, Lynn. What do you have any advice for, photographers who might like to follow in your footsteps for now that things have changed so dramatically?
Well, to follow in my footsteps means that, especially if you can get a copy of Rock and Roll Stories, to follow in my footsteps means that you only do things as long as you're learning from them. And at the moment that you're not happy with it anymore and that you're not really learning from that, you're just kind of torturing yourself. Choose a different path, go left. Okay. Listen, there were times, I mean, I was very successful. I was successful as Will Powers as a recording artist, didn't want to do it anymore, and if I need money, I'll go out and peddle puppets on the street. I mean, what do I need to do to feel like I'm living the life I want to live? Because we're only here for a limited period of time. I have always been aware that death can happen at any moment. I'm not scared by it. I'm motivated by it. I'm very excited about the fact that I'm here. And as long as I'm here,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have some fun. I'm gonna live well. I'm gonna eat well. I'm gonna love well. And I'm going to try to be the best person, that I'm capable of. Those are the things, not leading in the footsteps of photography. And the world is changing so quickly. I did something the other day. I'm trying to remember what it was. I posted it. I really love my Instagram because it's my thoughts and it's my reflections as well as sometimes my pictures. But I posted something that they thought, oh, I know. My husband got me a gift of these Ray-Ban Meta glasses. And besides the fact that, and the reason why is because I ride a bike everywhere and I wanted to, he thinks it's kind of dangerous for me to be holding my phone, making videos on my bike. So he
He's
got
probably
me the
right.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses so that I could just click here,
Oh, that's
or
cool.
answer the phone, doing that. And so I posted something and it says meta glasses or whatever, and someone got on me for AI and Elon Musk and blah blah blah. you know uh if, you know I I really can't waste my time with hateful negative stuff.
Yeah.
And in photography, that's changing so much because it's no longer, a true depiction of a moment in time necessarily, which photography was at
Right.
one point. But the definitions of everything is changing. The definitions of democracy, that, you have to uh, uh, those are the important things, not like how to be a photographer, because I don't even know nowadays, first of all, to be a photographer requires far more money, both for equipment, because it's not just the cameras, the lenses, which are more expensive than in my day, but the cost of the education that you need to really operate in Photoshop and Lightroom and the AI programs that are available, so it's your dedication to, making visuals. As far as telling the truth with pictures, I have photographers who are friends that put their lives on the line and attempt to find outlets that will buy their pictures. And that gets more and more difficult all the time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I don't even know that word will exist in the future. There's so many different ways. I mean, those glasses, you do a click, it also takes still pictures, and they're pretty high quality. So
Wow.
Wow.
between the
Yeah.
phone, which has made photography incredibly democratic, and those files are certainly good enough for publication.
Right.
And the other, who knows what forms are coming up,
Do you follow anyone modern music photography? Getting kind of back to your roots as a music photographer. What do you think of modern music photography?
Well, first of all, I don't know. I don't really understand when people say music photography. I mean, to me, that's ridiculous. Okay. And people who say, it's like, look, either you do portraits or you do documentary or you do still lifes or you do landscapes, um, or you do them all. I do. Um, so what is a music photographer? Someone who only photographs musicians? And then does that mean they only do concerts? Does that mean they only do portraits of musicians and nobody else? All these limitations, I really rail against them. And I'm not going to support them in any way. When I get letters from students or kids who say, I want to be a music photographer, I don't have time to answer them. To me, it's like, no, either you want to be someone who has something to express, or ask yourself, why are you limiting yourself like that?
I love that answer because in
Yeah.
one of my Instagram groups there was a big discussion about basically what you just said, with music and street photography. Like, what is street? Someone was like, "What is street photography?" Just go out there and do pictures. Make good photos. Don't be limited. So, I think that answer was really that was awesome.
Well, it's just, how it is. It's our desire, because there's so much coming at us all the time, that we have to create boxes in order to kind of function. And so these people fit into this box and these people fit into that box. And what I'm saying is, the more you put people into boxes, you box yourself.
Mm.
And when you do that, you are limiting all the possibilities that life has to have you experience how amazing, life is, the world is, the planet that we live on. Now, if you're motivated to use photography as a tool to bring awareness, let's say, to what plastics are doing to the environment, just to pick something, that's wonderful. And I hope you find a place and a platform to use your pictures to move people to do something, But to me, that doesn't mean you're just using photography as a tool to be an activist. That's what you are, So
And that's okay too, right? I mean,
Oh,
we
it's
do know
all
some
okay.
wonderful work that's being done in that world.
Oh, amazing work. And and I'm inspired by it. But you have to feel that passion yourself. What I'm saying is what Joseph Campbell said in his teachings and in his books, which is follow your bliss. Period. End of story.
Lynn, thank you
Thanks
so
for-
much. We are going to love putting this, your perspective and your sage advice and your authenticity out there in the world when we publish this. Thank you so much for coming on.
Joe and Molly.
Interview. This is awesome.
Okay. Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
New episodes drop every Tuesday on 10fps.net or anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also catch back episodes on WLOI.org, as all episodes are recorded and produced at WLOI Loyola Radio in Maryland.